All right, cool. So we got the recording started. I am going to share my little agenda really quick, and we can just briefly run through some of these items. And I'd love to hear anyone's thoughts. So feel free to jump in if you have any questions, suggestions, or um, a different way to approach any of these ideas. So the few of the general things that I think we should talk about today. Julia Academy update. We've got a lot of awesome things in the pipeline for Julia Academy. Um, there's a lot of development with this MLH fellowship, which is super interesting. So essentially, they're not phrasing it as a competitor program to Google Summer of Code, but essentially it's another opportunity for students interested in open source to get involved with a bunch of projects and actually be paid by GitHub, not the individual projects themselves. So very, very similar idea philosophy to what Google Summer of Code is. And then Google Season of Docs, the Julia organization was selected as a umbrella organization for Google Season of Docs, which is super awesome. So hopefully we'll be hosting approximately 4 technical writers in the fall. So that's a big win for us. There's also a Julia website overhaul going on. So the website originally was written pre-Julia 1.0, and now we're sort of looking back at how we can make the website experience a little bit better for people who are new Julia users. So that's in the works right now. The last 2 things, Julia streams. So there's actually been a huge number of people recently in the streaming channel on Slack who are banding together and making all kinds of awesome live content doing Julia programming. And I think they're doing a really awesome job with that. So I was talking with a few of them about like, how can we, similar to the way we have Julia bloggers, which is just sort of like a way to aggregate Julia blog posts into one place. How can we take the same idea and aggregate all of these different streams that are taking place into a single location so that everybody sort of knows where they can look for Julia streaming content. And then the final one is this thought of whether or not the Julia community as a whole should have its own newsletter and what that would look like, whether or not there's interest in that. I know Julia Computing puts out a newsletter approximately once a month, but the question is whether or not that newsletter is aligned with what the community would want from it. So I know there's a lot of important and cool things from that newsletter, but there right now there aren't like community events. It's more focused on like the Julia Computing training events, and there's no like package highlights, which was a suggestion from people in the community. Like we want to see like what are the cool new packages. So all those different things, and I'm totally open to ideas and thoughts. I've never done a newsletter before, so if someone has any experience with that and wants to spearhead, you can definitely get in contact with me and we can get that one started. So that's the general idea. That sort of hits on a lot of those topics already. So if there's any questions about any of that stuff, otherwise we can hop in and talk more specifically about some of the Julia Academy stuff and what's in the works right now. Sweet. Cool. So for the Julia Academy stuff, we just had a Julia a dataframes.jl course published by Bogmill, who, if you've ever asked a data frames question on Slack or anything like that before, or on Stack Overflow, you'll probably saw him answer the question. So he's really awesome, and that course is available right now on Julia Academy for free. And then we also have in the works right now a data science course from Huda, which is super exciting. So she's wrapping that up right now, and as soon as that's all finished up, we'll get that published on Julia Academy. And then I am actually kind of start working on an intermediate programming in Julia course for Julia Academy. So right now we have the introduction, which sort of just touches on like variables and loops and functions and stuff like that. So I'm thinking about taking a look at like the next set of topics. And then logically after that course is finished, hopefully we'll be able to pick someone up to build out a advanced Julia programming course. And I don't think I'll be the person to do that just because I don't know if my Julia experience is extensive enough. So hopefully we can recruit somebody to make that advanced Julia course. So that's what I have for Julia Academy stuff. Any questions about the developments or thoughts, comments on what we can do to continue to push Julia Academy as like the central resource for learning Julia stuff if you want to watch videos and stuff, don't want to read documentation? I can't hear you, Kevin, if you're talking.
Sorry about that. I'll chime in here. I'm on mute. Previously, myself and Logan were talking about engaging with the WIMLDS chapters around the world. It might be create a nice opportunity for collaboration between Julia community and the WIMLDS. So for Julia's point of view, just to sort of broaden the range of Julia, and for various chapters around the world of WIMLDS, just a sort of an activity, a shared activity that each chapter can do together. Do we have a chapter leader here? I think we have a chapter leader on the line. Do you want to chime in there? From Gaborone, Botswana?
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm good.
What would your point of view of that be? Yeah.
Sorry?
What would your point of view be?
I'm okay. Let me just listen, and then I'll pretty much get back to you at the end of the call. Yeah, that will be okay.
Yeah, so in case, sorry, there might not have been enough context. Also, so Julia Academy is just a free to use website where essentially we have a bunch of different domain experts and users of Julia come together and develop free courses in a specific domain like data science or machine learning, or for a specific package, like in the case of dataframes.jl. So it's designed to sort of be the on-ramp for new users of Julia. We've had thousands and thousands of people take the Introduction to Julia course through Julia Academy, and then subsequently all of the other more domain-specific classes. So the content was a little bit stale for a little while, but we're just coming out with some new courses now. So if there's feedback on those or thoughts about how we can, come together and build maybe a very specific course for WIMLDS, that would be totally cool with me. If there's a need that the existing courses aren't filling, I'm happy to find the right people to put a course together. Any other thoughts on that, Kevin?
It's just from the point of view of running a user group or a local chapter, in the past I found that it was very useful to have a shared project to work on together. So to meet up once or twice a week and go through the course material together, and just to sort of build a sense of community and just like collaboration. And just with anybody running a chapter around the world, that might be something that they're interested in.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds awesome. And I think the big thing right now is if I'm sure a lot of people are, like you said before, burnt out of the whole Zoom experience. So, potentially there's a way that we can sort of make this less like all of the other online learning experiences. And I'm not necessarily sure what the first steps would be to move in that direction. But it's definitely something that I can put some thought into as give people a change of scenery so that they're not just going through the same sort of courses and content all the time.
Okay, yeah, as Kevin is saying, I think it's worth a while when people are actually working on a project. I was just on the website right now. For people really to learn and be interested in our groups, we realized that if we put them on a project and they have to complete it, that's when there is interest. But if we just say, just go over the courses, people don't really do that here. So for us, it works for us as a chapter when we have a project, and then everybody can jump in to contribute onto that project. So maybe they can have some interest in learning.
And do you all traditionally like come up with a project as a group, or is it something where like from our end I can like think up some projects and then you can be like, hey, here are these different projects, and you know, you can watch these courses or these videos in order to gain the skills to complete this project?
Either way works fine for us. We have had situations where we had a project and then we want to work on it, and we can reach out to people to say this is the project that we want to work on. But currently we work on projects for stakeholders. People bring us projects and then they're like, here's a project, and if we're interested, then we find people to work on that project. So it will be great if you have projects, and then our community can look at those projects and then they can say, okay, this is the project that we think we can work on.
That's awesome. That sounds perfect, and I appreciate you for filling me in, because I wasn't aware that that's the way, you know, the workflow traditionally goes. So I can definitely reach out to people and figure out what are some high level projects that would, you know, not only be good to learn stuff with, but also that are going to benefit the community as a whole. So I will most definitely follow up on that and find some projects.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on Julia Academy materials before we transition to the MLH fellowship stuff?
Just to sort of add for somebody who's a raw beginner, that, you know, just learning the basics of a language and just having people around you in the same position is, you know, so you meet up together, it's like, you know, you get a bit of energy off each other. So just learning learning the basics of a language when you're a beginner is a good project as well. Because there are a lot of beginners there. So if you get a lot of beginners and make it easy for beginners to join, then they can continue on. They get a bit of momentum. They get a bit of confidence, you know.
Yeah. And the nice part is I feel a lot of the content, at least the introduction to Julia courses, is sort of geared towards folks who already have an understanding of computer science. Because if you can do programming in Python, Julia is relatively easy to pick up. So potentially, going off what you were saying, Kevin, it might be something where we just want to create an event and some sort of atmosphere where we can get a bunch of people together who don't know Julia yet and are interested in learning, and then also tying that in with like I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm just spitballing ideas, but like a few hours in the morning of just learning Julia and going through the basics, and then the latter part of the day being focused more on building projects and deploying something, or opening pull requests to some package, sort of like a hackathon. So we could combine all that together and set something up like that as well, potentially.
Yep.
All right, cool. So on the MLH fellowship side, I think the big thing that we need here is essentially MLH and GitHub and a couple of other companies partnered up together, and they just said, hey, we're gonna give all the money to pay for students to contribute to a variety of open source projects. I talked with some of the people at MLH, and they're interested in having Julia ecosystem projects available for these MLH fellows to actually work on. What we need is mentors who are willing to sprint plan a bunch of different projects for these students to come in and then actually go and execute on those projects. So a lot of our mentoring capacity right now is tied up with Google Summer of Code and Julia Summer of Code. So we're trying to widen the net and get some new mentors involved to hopefully mentor some of these MLH fellows. And the really nice part and the big difference from Google Summer of Code and Julia Summer of Code is that the mentoring process is much more hands-off. So the fellows actually have a full-time engineering like manager or mentor, however you want to put it. So they don't actually need someone there like doing more of the hand holding and like the helping process that takes place in Google Summer of Code. So it's more like the quote that I got was like 3 to 4 hours per month would be the time commitment that we're looking for these mentors for the MLH fellows. So if anyone here knows anybody or anyone's watching this recording after the fact, you can just shoot me an email or send me a Slack message or something like that. And I'd love to get some more people involved with that, because I think it's an awesome opportunity for those students and for everybody in our community as well. Any thoughts, comments on the MLH stuff?
I might have missed this before. What does MLH stand for?
Major League Hacking.
Major League Hacking. Okay.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's like they run most of the like the sanctioned big hackathons in the United States, and
Okay.
they just branched out to Asia as well. So they're quite a large organization now.
Is it specific to certain regions?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think there's obviously some constraints with like, you want the mentor to be able to actually like talk to people not in real life, but over Zoom or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's constrained to specific regions at the moment.
Okay, I think it's open to all regions. I know there is an MLH fellowship for Facebook developer circles. I don't know if you know that group. Facebook developer circles, they have an MLH fellowship right now, which is currently running. Even African students are able to join in if they are interested.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm not sure if they're still accepting students, but what I had heard was that they have roughly like 200 positions and available, and I think they had something like 8,000 applicants. So a ton of interest in this program, mostly due to the fact I'm pretty sure that a ton of people had their internships and stuff like that canceled all throughout the world. So they were really trying to help fill the need of all those students who don't have internships anymore, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So just a quick update on Google Season of Docs. So the Julia language was accepted as a umbrella organization. We have a bunch of projects that we've pre-made, which is sort of another one of the differences between Google Season of Docs and Google Summer of Code. In Google Season of Docs, it's on the project or the organization that will be mentoring the technical writers to actually scope out and sort of like make the project ahead of time. That's part of the application criteria. So we put a lot of time into thinking about, what are some areas throughout the community where we could really benefit from having better documentation in place. So on the Julia website right now, you can see a couple of these different places or these projects that we put together. So now we're in the technical writer exploration phase, where technical writers are finding organizations and trying to see if there's projects that interest them. So if any of you know technical writers or people who are aspiring technical writers who might be interested in the Julia language, you can definitely send them over to us on the GSOD Slack channel. Sweet.
Oh, I came in at just the right moment then.
How's it going?
Hey, hello, chat.
Any questions? I know people. I don't know people's. You're showing your name as MRG, and I forgot. I know I've seen your name on Slack and stuff before. But what is your, if you don't mind sharing, what is your actual name so that I can
Miguel Raz.
say it one more time for me?
Miguel Raz, R-A-Z.
Miguel Tras. Interesting. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Is there any comments, feedback, questions about the Google Season of Docs stuff that I can address?
No, I think the deadline is by June 11th. You have to submit your application, I guess.
Yeah, it's a ways out there. I think the initial, it might actually be later than June 11th. I'm not, I could pull it up really quick.
But probably the most that I can comment on is gonna be on the streaming side of things.
Yeah,
I had some very productive last 2 days, and I think I can give you some good feedback, but I see that's down the schedule.
Yeah, we will get to that relatively shortly. So the actual application opens up on June 9th, and then the deadline for technical writers is going to be July 9th.
Damn. Okay, great.
Yeah, so there's definitely a little bit of a lag period, because that program, technically the start of the program when the technical writers start is actually not till September 14th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Two questions. You might have covered them already. Is there any payment for that, or is it, or any like bursary or stipend or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is, I don't want to say exactly the same as GSOC, but I'm almost positive they're using the same pay scales. So it depends on your country. I think in general, the United States is somewhere around $6,000. So the same payment as Google Summer of Code. So yes.
Okay, that answers my second question as well, that anyone in the world can apply.
Yes. So I think unless you're residing in a country that is embargoed by the United States, but as long as you're not in one of those countries, it is just like GSOC. It's open to anybody.
Yeah.
You do have to be able to prove that you have some sort of technical writing experience, and I think this one is a little bit more vague than some of the, like the Google Summer of Code requirements that you're enrolled in a university. And for that one, it's very black and white whether you're enrolled in a university. For this one, you have to like show, it's more subjective in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how that verification process goes for people. Any questions about Google Season of Docs stuff? Cool. Really quickly, so the Julia website overhaul, they've just been a lot of discussion recently on the julialang.org website repository, just talking about, what can we do to make this experience better, and sort of just rethinking some of the things that have been pretty static on the website for the last couple of years. So if you're interested in helping out with that, or you want to make some contributions to the Julia website, a lot of that discussion is ongoing. And honestly, we might end up having a call or something like that specifically for the website, because there's just been, every morning I wake up and there's like 7 different discussions about all these different moving pieces about changing things on the website. And even I'm having trouble keeping up with what the plan is on a lot of these different things. So I actually think if you go on the website, there's a new background, which looks kind of awesome. Yeah, there's this new background. It is kind of hurts my eyes for a second, but it definitely livens it up a little bit. So again, if you're interested in helping out with that, I think you can join in on Slack on the website channel, or again, shoot me a note or something like that, and I can, or if you just track the repository, you can see all the ongoing issues and pull requests and jump into the conversation if you have comments, suggestions, or you want to help out with that. Awesome. So Julia streams. This was something that people have been talking more and more about recently, is how can we consolidate some of this streaming content together. And I think some of the ideas were making like a singular channel where a bunch of different people all stream and put all the content on there, or can we just make a streams playlist on YouTube and just link all the content there? What's the best way that we can get that content all in one place so that it's not as fragmented across the community?
So to that end, I started Julia Streamer's Twitter, and made like there's several ways to aggregate those, so people can, like, the first option is to like just go and subscribe on YouTube or on Twitch, just so whenever, for example, I've actually done some streaming, so whenever I go online, if you're subscribed to my stream, you get a notification to wherever you desire anytime that I'm going to do that. You can also like schedule them so that if I'm going to do a stream in 5 days, you can subscribe and get that notification then. So there's like some scheduling that can be done. But like in terms of how it can be aggregated, there could also be, people could have a calendar where they could that could be like updated maybe on Discourse, and people could try and put some of their schedules. But people's schedules are like not stable enough. I'm actually writing like many of these minutes downs and like the sort of like tool chains that people can become familiar with in order to use all of this.
Yeah. I think one of the, even this existing community calendar that we have going right here, one of the big challenges is that the number of people that you can have collaborating on the calendar seems to be constrained. Like Google doesn't really like, once I had like 15 people who had access to this calendar, and then after I had like a certain number, it just like stopped letting me invite people to actually edit the calendar itself. So it is quite finicky in that respect. But what was you said that you made a Twitter for the streams. What was the?
Yeah, so I can give you the handle if you want. I just thought like maybe you guys would want it at some point. It's called Julia Streamers. It's empty, but like it could just aggregate from people and tweet every time that somebody goes online and they're streaming. There's also there's a lot of tools associated, or yeah, like a tool setup for people that want to get into streaming or want to participate with streaming. So some of you might not know this, but I started this Discord server it's very easy to jump into voice channels with people. And actually yesterday I had a stream with OTDE. They were the ones who built the brainfuck parse time compiler, and they made a blog post about it. And so as I was doing some exercises on stream, this person was able to just comment on the code as I was going. So there's a lot of opportunities for community building with people collaborating on the stream, and not everyone like sharing their screens, and like maybe just like providing a voiceover and commenting on code.
I think the idea of having somewhere where people who are interested, because I have been seeing the conversations in the streaming channel, it seems like there's a ton of questions about like, hey, can somebody come check my stream to make sure, I have everything set right. So it's definitely an opportunity. And I think even if you like make a GitHub organization or something like that, and put together a GitHub Pages site and just sort of detail like how you can become somebody who streams Julia stuff and programming stuff, I think that would be awesome and super helpful to people as well. But
yeah, I could write up just like a bare bones blog post of like, this is what you need to set up your stream. Huh?
I think the Twitter idea will work as well. And you can use the twitter.jl package to actually, and you could probably use that in combination with GitHub Actions to like ping the Twitch API and see if any of the people who are like a registered Julia streamer are going live, and then tweet out a notification or a tweet or whatever. It just gets questionable about whether or not you can actually use Twitter for that purpose, because I know they're very conservative about like doing automated tweeting. They do not like when people have programs that tweet stuff, because those are
Oh yeah, those. So that's that. So there's a lot of hey, like we're gonna like amplify somebody who's gonna be like posting content online, and then whenever that person or someone can do something malicious, that's not a good time.
yeah, they're not fans of that. But I do think so whatever, if there's things that I can help with, I am happy to help, like help consolidate all these resources for people, and we can keep having the conversation about what the right place is for all this content. I do think that just having a playlist on the YouTube channel, and then we can give access to a bunch of different people, and everybody can aggregate the VODs from their streams into that channel. I think that will be helpful, as well as like a singular place to look for some of this content.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, aggregate your VODs to stream on YouTube. Sure.
All right, awesome. Any other comments about Julia streaming stuff before we talk about the idea of a Julia newsletter?
More a question for people outside the global north. Like, is internet access, an issue?
Yes.
In Botswana or Kenya. I have a friend in Kenya, and she says the internet can be tricky.
Yes. So there's definitely a infrastructure issue where if you don't have enough uploading speed connection, then following your stream will be challenging. There's a little bit of mitigation you can do in terms of like the quality that you upload the stream at, right? So you don't like I'm basically live streaming code on my terminal that doesn't need to be 60 FPS at 4K HD. So you can like there's some parameters you can tweak to try and like tone it down so that it's a bit friendlier to your connection speeds, but it's still a pretty like it can still be a pretty demanding load on your connection, like no doubt.
Okay, internet is a really problem here in Botswana. As you can see, since the lockdown, we can't really do anything. A lot of people can't afford the internet. On top of that, even if you have internet, it's super slow. It's a miracle that I'm on a call right now and it has not really cut me off. So it's bad. Usually people just rely on internet at their workplaces, universities and all, but when you're at home, it's pretty much difficult to do a lot of things.
So I don't know that I can offer, like, I don't know what I can do to help for that, but at least in my streams, there are options to save them to YouTube so that people can watch them or try and save them and access them later offline. If you have limited access, you can access it at a university, save the video, and then like look at it later. I could probably include that in a blog post so that people know how to make that access easier. But it's not the best. I'm sorry, like I know I also live in a country that has the best spotty access. So yeah, it's my condolences as well.
Where are you?
Based in Mexico.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah. Just actually as a quick remark, it's not really a question, but at some of the streams that we for Julia and a couple of our ones, that the people from around the world came from a lot of like diverse countries, like Namibia, Central African Republic, Mali, Malawi, Peru, Albania, Nepal, depending on the time zones as well. Like, I think it's actually a great equalizer. To even get to like just to be actually see what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the big challenges is that there's these pockets, especially in the United States and in the like London as well, where you have all this like great, Julia meetups and content and all that stuff. And previously, the last like 3 or 4 years, those events were all focused like super in person, and no one really recorded or put those videos online besides JuliaCon. And now we've had the chance because of COVID to actually have some of these awesome speakers sit down and do those talks live on YouTube, which I think has been super cool, and a great experience. So I'm glad that as I think Vic said it in one of the calls, that was definitely one of the silver linings of this is we've gotten a chance to come together more globally as a community than we were able to in the past, which is awesome. All right, cool. So Julia newsletter. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? I know I myself am never excited about signing up for another email thing, but with rare exception, I think if we were to potentially do it right, it could be something that's valuable to a lot of people. Like I actually really enjoy reading the Julia computing ones that get sent out every month or however often they end up sending those out. So I do think those are valuable, but I'm not sure if that's just my point of view or if there's other people who would benefit from, again, having like a highlight of packages, upcoming events, other important announcements like that usually go on the discourse announcement sections. We can repost those in there as well. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
Nope.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Like I don't feel qualified to opine here. It's just like, yeah, I can enjoy them, but
Cool. Yeah, I'll put some more thought into it, and I'll get a follow-up post on that on discourse and sort of gather feedback and see who is interested, and again, if people have any thoughts about a good way to approach doing that. Right now, technically, we have something, I forgot what the name of it is, on our Slack workspace. There's a way to get the top 10 like posts based on engagement metrics emailed to you every week, which is super cool. That way you can sort of see a brief highlight of like all the cool things happening across all the different channels on Slack. I don't think a lot of people are using that right now.
I would love to add that.
Yeah, we already have it, so I'll repost how to actually use it. But it's technically live right now. I just don't think anyone is actually taking advantage of it. So I'll repost that in the Slack. All right, so that's all I have to talk about on my end. Is there other things, topics, suggestions, as far as these community initiatives that we can all sort of push forward together and steer things in the right direction?
I can give a bit of talk a little bit about something we discussed previously, just to allow people a chance to give their say on it or give better suggestions. Previously, I suggested that the Julia community build up a relationship with women in machine learning and data science who have chapters all around the world, just to sort of build a collaboration. And we, so just in the R world, the R community have R ladies, and they have a good chapter set up around the world. And I'm just wondering, we could build a sort of a similar relationship with WIMLDS, Women in Machine Learning and Data Science. So
Yeah, I think it's something that we can look into. The thing is, yeah, most of my team said they will join, but they didn't. It works better when we actually understand what they kind of like stand to benefit. Let's say for them being in the Women in Machine Learning and Data Science chapter, it's mostly it's easier. It became easy to have such a chapter here because it uses most Python, which is a programming language that is widely used here in our country. You do it in your varsity, you do it there. You see introduction to R, it's just starting up and a few people are interested. So it will depend. We will have to raise awareness on Julia and have them do interesting things so that they can actually see if it's something that we can align with.
yeah.
I know there are a few ladies who are really interested in starting up an Our Ladies chapter. So since we are a very small ecosystem, we just start these chapters and then we work together as a team because our ecosystem is very small. So it will be the same thing, raising our awareness on what's happening with Julia and what people can do with it, and then maybe have a mini session where people can actually interact with some people who have used Julia and have done great work on it so that people can take interest on it. And then the collaboration is pretty much easy to start.
Would you think that somebody in Botswana, like for example, the Google's Summer of Documents thing, that might be of interest to them? I'm just thinking, yeah.
I think it might be. It will just be a matter of spreading it out to the community and letting them know what opportunities are there. I personally think some people can be interested in it, and it can be shareable. If I really know the exact details and maybe a poster where I can just give them and then they know what is expected of them, and then those interested can sign up because definitely some people in the community may be interested.
Just actually what I was, this is from a conversation in the R community that providing sort of opportunities for people in the global south to advance their careers is a question of equity and proper, it's a proper thing to do. So, for example, that, for example, you just things to put on your CV if you're applying for a job. I gave a talk at this, and I contributed to document coding at that. So it's sort of like you can build up a CV.
Yeah.
I just sent in the chat as well the link to the post that I put up about the Julia language participating in Google Season of Docs. So that post has all of there's actually like the poster from Google and all of the other relevant details about how you can find out how much money you're going to get paid depending on what country you live in. So if you don't mind sharing that out, if you think that would be of interest to people, this post that I just put in the chat for the Zoom call should have all of the relevant details for Google Season of Docs. And not just the Julia language either. There's a ton of other really cool organizations. So I'm obviously biased, but there's a ton of other awesome projects that are participating in the program as well.
Thanks for that, Logan.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I'll definitely share that in our community groups.
Cool. Anyone else have any thoughts about Season of Docs or other topics related to community initiatives? Cool. Well, I appreciate all of you for being here and voicing your thoughts. I think, the best way to, shape the community is to get a bunch of different people together and to talk about all these different ideas. So once again, thank you all for being here and talking with us. As I said at the beginning of the call, this is going to go up onto YouTube. So if you're opposed to having your likeness on the Julia Languages YouTube channel,
Bless you.
Bless you.
bless you. I didn't hear what was said. Please reach out to me if you're opposed to having yourself show up on the YouTube channel. Otherwise, you will be featured there when this goes live.
Um, Logan, I have no problems with that. I just have, maybe I could ask you a question on, or ask the people in the channel right now, what would be something that you would like to know about if someone were to post or make a blog post on Discourse on what the Julia streaming community or experience has been like what is streaming, where does it happen, like what does it usually involve, how to set it up yourself, how to participate, like what would be like things that you think could go into that post?
I mean, all of those things that you just said sound like things that would be relevant information to talk about. And I think once you can send me over a draft if you put something together. And then if you want to post that on either Discourse or if you want to do a blog post on the Julia website, that works with me as well. You just have to open a pull request and you can actually look at the existing blog posts as a template for what your blog post should look like. But I think that's relevant to the community, and I'm totally on board with getting that information on the website somewhere, on Discourse somewhere, so that other people can benefit from it.
All right, I'll draft something and let you know.
Cool. I might be slow to respond in the next week-ish, but I'll make sure that I get to it as soon as I see it.
Yeah, good luck with your recent project.
Thanks.
All right. Cheers.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Thanks again for being here, and stay safe.
Thanks. Bye-bye.